Welcome to this project. My name is Shai, and this project is why was smallpox successful in eradication rather than other diseases that have vaccines? This research project goes over vaccines from different types of diseases that are most common or relevant to this day to figure out why it hasn't reached the goal of being eliminated. The information gathered comes from CDC, WHO, NCBI, organizations, and/or immune experts. Included in the slideshow is efficiency, number of doses, the data on Worley vaccines, for each of the 4 diseases that are presented in this presentation. The data that will be collected will be compared to the information on smallpox. The reason for that is because it's been around for a while in history and it has been eradicated for a long time. The 4 diseases that are being researched are of the following: measles, polio, hepatitis B, meningitis. Altogether, the whole idea of this research is to make a clear realization to people or anyone that isn't sure or wanting to understand why we're still dealing with the diseases that should have been long gone, like smallpox. In this research paper, the hypothesis is gathered from information that has been gathered from previous research or related ideas on why we haven't reached immunity for the fewer diseases in this time period. That's because people in the new generations have more conflict, like ethicalness, social media influences, less funding, or maybe the seriousness effects and couldn't be like smallpox with being eradicated. The research questions are: what were the efficiency of vaccines for different diseases? Is it high? Is it low? What is good? What is the efficiency we want to reach? How many doses are the time apart in those diseases compared to smallpox? Is it good to have higher doses? Is it bad to have higher doses? What were the availability? Was it limited? Were there none at all? That is the questions to answer. My variables are the vaccines being the independent variable, and the dependent variables are a few things. How the disease is spreading. Is it mutating? Is it going to different strands? And what is it affecting? And then the availability for people to get those vaccines. Again, limited access, none at all. And the data collection from previous research, smallpox has a 95% efficiency, which is really good. It prevents outbreaks, it helps immune your system so then you and other people aren't vulnerable to the disease. It takes 2 doses, very low amount of doses, and the time to get each dose are 4 weeks apart. And so you should have it done within a month. Now the first disease we're going to go with is measles. Measles is a virus. It has a higher efficiency than smallpox by 3%. It's 97%. It also takes similar amount of doses, being 2. The time apart is what's different. For the first dose, you're over 1 year old as a newborn, or a baby, 1-year-old baby. Though the problem with getting the second dose is that you're 4 to 6 years old. So that's later in your lifetime, and that's where you can actually get measles. And you need both doses to actually be immune. and from WHO and CDC, with the information gathered, worldwide, most children have received their first dose by their first birthdays, but it falls really short on the second dose, meaning that it is out there. There's cases out there. Be able to get it no matter where you are, but mainly in other places in the world, they're just not fully immune to it yet. Second disease is meningitis. Now, this one is a bacterial, and it has a lower efficiency than measles and smallpox. It is 65% to 83.7%, which is lower, and it has 3 doses in total. And you have to be a bit older when you get the doses, 10 years old, which when you reach 10 years old, you're almost done with elementary, and you could get meningitis as if it's a common flu. Easy to spread. It's hard to diagnose off the bat because it's almost like a flu. Get your second dose till the 2, and that's crazy because with smallpox, it's only 4 weeks apart. Now, these are saying you can have it 2 months apart, and then your last dose 6 months apart. That's literally almost a whole year till you can get immune to it, but even the immunity is a bit lower. However, meningitis is a very concerning problem to this day. Even if it's a lower efficiency, has higher doses, very big time apart. In other continents and countries, it is harder for them to have access to vaccines, and meningitis is spreading, and it mutates, and there's different strands, and that's caused a lot of deaths in 2019. There are campaigns out there trying to get countries vaccinated, but it's still hard because not a lot of countries are vaccinated for meningitis, and that can be a problem because meningitis can affect the brain and spinal cord, which can lead to a lot of major problems in the future. Polio is our third disease. Polio is a virus. It has a very good outlook on its efficiency, 90 to 100%. Very good numbers. But then you look at the doses. 4 doses. Dose 1, you can have it when you're a baby or over 1 to 4 years old, but after your previous each 2, 3, and 4 doses, you gotta wait 6 months after. So that's almost 2 years, and that is very concerning. There are different strands of polio, and again, Africa and Asia and other countries in the world have cases very impactful in those areas, with vaccines being not available and mutations happening, and the time apart really doesn't help their cases. And that was in 2019 data. Hepatitis B, that is also a virus, and its efficiency is higher than measles and smallpox, 98%, 100%, good numbers. 3 doses. 3 doses. That's lesser than polio, but 1 more than smallpox. You actually get your first dose when you're a baby, because very important. You get your second dose a month after, and then you get your third dose 6 months after. The concerning part is the time apart, because you could get hepatitis B during you're waiting for another dose, or if the baby isn't vaccinated or their first dose. When it's not a big concern or anything, during 2019 worldwide, A lot of people have it. That is very concerning, but the concern for it is probably low. That will also need further looked into. Altogether, with my data analysts, the number of doses, there are a few, like polio and hepatitis, meningitis, that are a bit higher than smallpox. The time apart is very different. With smallpox being 4 weeks, there's some that are 2 years apart that you need to take each vaccine for, months, half a year. That is a big area of, that's a big time difference. That's a long wait. FMLI who on people who aren't vaccinated, that is very important. There's limited cases. There's a lot of death rates happening. The strands are mutating. Anything can happen there. Altogether, what we learned overall, not many places have vaccines available. Some of the diseases mutate and spread, like meningitis. And so the original vaccine for that don't work, but then they're not available of the original one. And then they'll take more time to get the new one for the mutation, and it goes on and on. It's like on repeat. The intakes of doses are higher than smallpox, for it being 2. There's some with 4, 3, some similar with them, but as again, the time apart, very different. None of them are 100%. I know polio is up there, but polio takes 4 doses, and it's not always guaranteed 100%. No vaccines are. The time apart of each doses are in longer lengths and different age groups. Some you have to be a baby for. Some you actually have to be 10. That is very limited, because then that can limit anyone to when you can get it before the limit time age requirement. In my research, I have concluded that diseases with lower vaccine doses availability worldwide, and when a person gets it also with age, the requirement, or the time period within a year, within 2 years, can affect how fast a disease will go away or you become immune. However, that is just part 1 for a successful eradication, and it's not always likely. There's other reasons for a successful eradication than those. Things to look further into. Does newer generation affect how many people are willing to be vaccinated? With social media, opinions, are there any ethical things, laws, culture that are involved with getting a vaccine, especially around the world? How much funding goes into making and researching vaccines? Because that requires money to make vaccines, or to study upon the new mutations and spreads, and the availability to spread out the vaccines. Does this depend on the seriousness of the disease? Does it depend on the death rates? For example, if in 2019, there was 100,000 cases, that is very concerning. But not too long, 2020 came up, and that hired. Altogether, there are other things that are conflicting with what should be funded, like training, military, etc. Well, those are further things that should be looked into. Here are the references for the presentation. If you have any questions or feedback, those are always guaranteed, likable, needed, wanted. Thank you for watching, reading, and learning about vaccines. Have a good day.